Welcome to a bit of a revamp from Star 6 Minis. I'm Tian, and after our new raunchy intro, we'll take a look at my miniature beginnings. We'll also answer the question, why Star 6 Minis? Back at the turn of the millennium, me and some friends became really avid D&D players. I was a closet nerd back in the day, just discovering hardcore video games and heavy metal, and discovering a whole world where a lot of lore and a lot of fantasy was already created for us. It was really a change to my perspective on how we could have fun. We poured through the books, the art, and the lore, and we spent, most evenings, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. the next morning, playing. At the time, a friend had a whole collection of Mage Knight models. This was enough to keep us tied over for the time being. As long as my paladin could have a character that just had a sword, I was fine, and I was happy with that. We were happy with very little back in the day. Fast forward about 5 years, and we started getting into Warhammer Fantasy. Again, this was driven by a friend and a brother of a friend. They got me into playing Skaven, and the lore and aesthetic of the Under Empire just immediately appealed to me. I got painting my first Warlord model, and soon after, I had a horde of poorly painted Skaven dog people. The rank and file nature of Skaven isn't a great place to start painting, as it becomes incredibly boring and frustrating very soon. We played quite a lot, but actually quite often defaulting to using plain bases without any models on them. The next step was Warhammer 40k. And just like Skaven was immediately visually appealing to me, the Sisters of Battle immediately appealed to me. Yes, even in their pewter form. But as a student, this wasn't very affordable, and the hobby very quickly died out as we returned to Warhammer Fantasy. We plodded along like this for a few years, not really minding if things were painted properly or not, until I saw this model. Celestine the Living Saint was a revelation to me. I had an artist living in the house with me at the time, and I asked him if he would paint it as a commission for me. He was quite busy, so I borrowed some paint, went and bought cheap-ass hobby paint, and got to painting it myself. Pretty soon, I started collecting other armies. Plastic Sisters were released, and I discovered the online world of miniature painting. I started watching videos of Miniac, Vinci Venturella, and a whole horde of others, just like I'm sure you've all become accustomed to watching. But living in South Africa, where everything arrives last, at least it's not as bad or as expensive as Australia, I never thought there was a massive community for this kind of thing. Until I bought my first ever wet palette from a local art store, Wildstorm Studios. It's run by a professional painter, Richard Cordero, who immediately got me into the community, and I haven't looked back since. I started painting busts, 75mm figures, and even making videos for YouTube. But I haven't lost what got me into the hobby in the first place. I love playing tabletop games with my friends and putting complete and fully painted armies on the table. Nothing compares to this immersion and making an idle Thursday evening feel awesome. Why the name Star 6 Minis? I've always been quite a stickler for family heritage, and I've always been a little bit of a sentimental kind of person. So when I was a teenager, more or less around the time that we started playing Dungeons and Dragons, I did a little bit of research into my family crest. My family crest has this element of a 6-sided star on it. So, red, yellow, and white, it made quite a lot of sense. And when I started making YouTube videos, I thought, why not? Star 6 Minis.